Computer. Good morning and welcome to the Starting Your Own Business show. I'm Sam Acton from Domestic Angels, and with me is David Holland.
Good morning.
Results Rules OK, the business co-pilot. Thanks for being with me today, David. Obviously, we like to have a chat most weeks, so we've got something to yarn about when it comes to business. But today we wanted to try and bust some of the myths around franchising, which people come along with, or in fact they just don't come along and talk to us about franchising at all because these myths exist. And the myths exist so much because there's a lack of understanding about what franchise or franchising is in the UK. In the States, it is really well understood and known, but here on our little island, there's lots of misperceptions and misconceptions around it. I think predominantly due to the use of or misuse of the word franchise in the media. Would you agree?
I think so. I think that there's also this sort of people think. I think a franchise, having been a franchisee and a franchisor, I think they think it's sort of food only. It's all burgers and chicken.
Or Disney movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or the NFL is a franchise, and there's all this, and it gets all lost in the mix somewhere. And but I think you're right. I think the UK franchising sector, it is, in a good way, it is unique. It is very, very broad. Lots of options there, but it gets, people don't ask the right questions perhaps, and also they speak to the wrong people. They take advice off the bloke down the pub who thinks he knows about franchising, rather than speaking to somebody in the sector who can actually give you some
so you get
guidance.
the bloke down the pub going, oh, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to buy a franchise. Exactly.
Yeah. And in actual fact, I'm actually guilty of that, because in 2005 I went to one of these big franchise exhibitions, which are nearly soulless, to be fair. And I actually thought I was in this major exhibition room with a bunch of sharks who wanted to sell empty shoe boxes to as many people as possible. So have you got money? I'll take it from you and give you an empty shoe box and convince you that you've just bought a business and a way of earning an income. And it was rubbish. But so much of that has actually changed over the years. And whilst the big investment franchises were certainly not selling empty shoe boxes, because otherwise you wouldn't have the big food outlets that you mentioned earlier, everybody else has had to sort themselves out, and that kind of shark brigade is, well, nearly dead, I'd say.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah, maybe they were oversold or overhyped and that sort of thing as well in the old days. But I think I agree with you. I think those days are gone. I think people are more savvy now, or they should be. They can see through it. But also the franchising sector's matured, hasn't it? It's it's got now, so it is more wide, more broad, more people doing it, and it's got more of a positive reputation as well.
Yeah, and there's two key changes that have happened in the last 6-7 years that's ensured that the franchise industry has progressed. So the sharks have died off.
Right, exactly.
One has been the evolution of the British Franchise Association, headed by Pip Wilkins and team, who have been dealing with this and making sure that standards and ethics are absolutely at the centre of the franchise industry. And you know what? That has been a painful experience for an awful lot of people.
I can imagine.
Then the second element has been a whole load of franchisors like myself who have come at the industry from a totally different direction. We didn't connect with the associations, but we worked out that we need to multiply our businesses and use a franchising system, but we didn't use traditional consultants. We didn't connect with the associations, and we're very much a group of disruptors. And because we've been able to disrupt and create our franchises without being caught by the old out-of-date traps, it's challenged the industry overall to actually be better.
Agreed.
So franchising is definitely a much more ethical, high standard environment than it ever was, and continues to progress in the right direction. But still dealing with the misconception in the news, the media uses the word franchise for Disney films, train lines.
Exactly. Was it the East Coast Line or whatever, the trains of franchise?
It's like, oh, well, what's that? Could you give a brief definition of what a franchise is, as in the business in a box?
Yeah, gosh, no pressure here. I think we'll give my interpretation of it. That's okay. It's not the official one. Is there such a thing? When I bought a franchise 20 years ago, and what I got and what I wanted was access to a proven model that somebody else has built and tested and refined, that I can plug my knowledge and experience into, that works for me as a semi-independent business owner. So it's a proven model basically, that works, has been proven to work. So I'm going to build it from scratch and fall over all the time. And I think that's where it gets a little bit lost with the train line franchise and all this sort of thing. In my experience, a business franchise is somebody saying, look, I've got something that works. Here's a model, a principle, a concept. It works. You can have access to it. You can buy into it. You can rent it from us. You do what we show you, and you're going to get some predictable results as a consequence. So it's really, that's a proven model, I think, is the key.
All right, okay. So yeah, like business in a box, just add Dave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, providing Dave is the right person, because it's not for
the right person.
Everybody, but yeah, in principle, yeah, put the right person in and away we go.
So really what we're saying to the audience is, if you're looking for a business, if you want to start your own business and you want to take the franchise route, which is a very quick and safe and secure route compared to starting on your own, which we've discussed in the previous episode, you need to look for the right box for you, the right business, the one that makes you fire up, that you can add your energy to, and then let it grow. Okay. Now, first myth that we want to bust after that on our list. We come up with that big myth, and we already had a list of 5, so we need to snap through these 5. Are franchises too expensive?
Well, I think this is like like people say training's expensive. Well, you try the expense of not training people. I think that the blockage that people have when they're looking at a franchise is, what they have to sort of understand is they've got 2 choices. In business, you've got 2 choices. You start yourself, and you're going to put blood, sweat, tears, investment, time, and risk into it. It may or may not work. 80% of new startups don't. Hugely expensive. Or you're going to put a lower amount of money up front, but it's visible. That's the difference, and invest in a proven system. So for me, a franchise isn't expensive, because the alternative cost of getting it wrong and falling over is hugely more expensive. Then the challenge is you don't see those costs up front, because they trickle out over 12 months. Whereas with the franchise, it's easier. You're going to pay a fee, and there's royalty, and it's fixed. It's, oh my goodness, it's tangible. Whereas in your own business, it's untangible, which is a shame, I think.
And also the franchise, if you've just added Dave and made your successful franchise, at the end of the term, you can sell your going concern business and you get your investment back.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas if you start on your own and it doesn't work out, you probably you're not going to get your investment back, because you won't have anything to sell.
Yes.
And if you're successful in creating your own business, like you say, you can't actually add up how much it costs. And I started Domestic Angels myself back in 2002 with a blank sheet of paper. So I've been down there as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And do you know what? I actually couldn't tell you how
much
it cost. But it took years to do it and do it well.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of perfection and evolution. It's not just like, okay, we're going to go out and offer cleaning, and this is how we're going to do our invoices.
Yeah.
It never stays like that. There's so much more to take on board and learn and evolve. Sure. And you really have to put yourself in a position where you're prepared to be the master of the whole 360 of business.
Yes.
So exactly, you need to be able to do marketing, you need to be able to do selling, you need to be able to do bookkeeping, you need to be able to do law, you need to be able to do employment, you need to be able to do HR, you need to be able to, just absolutely everything. You need to be able to put every single hat on. Yeah. And I did manage to put every single hat on, but do you know what? Not everybody wants to be like that.
No, exactly. No, they people don't have the stamina for it. And I think what happens is, because you essentially you've done the hard yard, so they don't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
And rather than okay, let's say I'm going to guess it's probably, let's say it cost you $250,000 to do all that in terms of everything.
Yeah, that's probably right.
But you're not going to charge people $250,000 for it. You're going to slice it down, say you can have access to it. All the systems we've got. It's not going to cost you $250,000. We're going to charge this much. We get some training and support, and we share on the journey and away you go. So it reduces that whole risk, because people haven't got the stamina to do it like that.
Absolutely. And in actual fact, I would much rather see people be successful,
Yeah,
then do that risk and invest all of that money over a period of time and
absolutely.
lose that,
Yes.
and not actually have anything to show at the end of it, whatever. So apparently myth number 2 is
Go on.
franchisors will sell to anyone who has the money.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's the checkbook and the pulse syndrome, is it? What qualifies you to be a franchisee? But I think, Jen, interestingly, no names being mentioned at all. If you go back in time, that may have been the case because we're in this sort of shark sales syndrome. Now, however, I think people are much more savvy. They have much more due diligence about speaking with franchisees, social media. And I think a franchisor really can't afford to have a failing franchisee. They don't want them anyway, but they can't afford to because it's bad for reputation. The best advert for a franchise, in my opinion, is a good, solid, successful franchisee that goes, yeah, this is great, hard work, you did this, did that, it works, away we go. So I think
Yeah,
it becomes a positive self-fulfilling prophecy
I
to have
think so as
successful
well. And
franchisees.
a failing franchisee costs a lot of money and a lot
Absolutely,
of
yeah.
emotion, a lot of energy. And I don't know about you, Dave, but I am certainly not in business to have that experience,
No, of course not. No.
because it's too draining. And you know, it's that whole thing. Oh God, I can't remember how people say it, but one bad situation takes like 80% of your energy,
Yeah.
and 20, and all the good stuff only takes 20%. Well, I don't want to give 80% of my energy to anyone
No,
that's
exactly.
failing. I want 100% to all my success stories.
Yeah.
So you know, who comes on board is really important, because they're going to be an ambassador for Domestic Angels.
Absolutely.
They're going to be an ambassador for my brand. I like to see people succeed. I'm addicted to
Yeah.
seeing people succeed, in actual
Absolutely.
fact.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to see. I don't want to see people not do well.
No, exactly.
And I think in particular with the disruptive sector that I mentioned earlier, we're even more passionate about that, because we're not necessarily sales target driven.
Sure.
As
Yeah.
franchisors, we've been
Yeah.
able to be far more organic and creative
Yeah.
around how we take our businesses forward. So we'd rather find the right people, rather have slow growth and good stability. So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think franchisors will just take money from
I don't think
whoever.
they won't be there in the long term, because those people, it doesn't work out that way. I remember one of the guys I worked with over in the US, lovely guy, Michael Kick, and he used to say franchising is a marriage, not a date. And it's true, you know, it's a long-term relationship that we want to get right from the start, and
Yeah.
it wants to be in the long term. And if you're flogging a franchise for money, that long-term relationship's not going to last well.
So myth number 3 on our list today, and I keep looking
Yeah,
down to check I'm reading it right.
yeah, that's okay.
A franchise doesn't allow for creativity.
Who told you that? It's an interesting myth, though, that these sort of falsehoods that people have. I think the thing is, there are all these sort of contemporary stories out there, actually from the franchising world, where franchisees have developed new ideas or thoughts or principles, and there's the fillet of fish and all this sort of thing for McDonald's, whatever it is. I think, you know, I think a franchisee has to work within the framework of the franchise, but they are the people at the sharp end. They can have absolute, you know, creativity, and they can't go and wander off and do it themselves and ad hoc, but within the framework they can absolutely be creative. Yeah, of course they can.
And I think, again, with the disruptive sector, the framework is only prescriptive to a certain extent, and
Yeah,
then it allows for the franchisee to be themselves. And again, that
absolutely.
comes back to choosing the right person rather than
Yeah,
just taking any old money. So if you've got the right person in place, they can use the framework and then add themselves
yeah,
and come up with you know, a lovely culture, lovely relationship connections,
that's it.
and make a difference in the community to what they're doing, depending on what their franchise topic is.
Yeah,
And I think that is one of the lovely things, is you've got this security of framework and this big team
yeah,
behind you, solid team, and you know that the formula's right. And
yeah,
then you can add your own character. Okay, some people aren't going to have the confidence, and we need to build them up, because you know they're the right people. But yeah, I do think there is room for creativity. I think
absolutely.
possibly, you know, in the much bigger franchises, there isn't.
Maybe they are
But
more regimented, I think. Yeah, they're
yeah,
more regimented. But I think, you know, from a franchise, as a franchisor, I want my franchisees to be successful and growing. And if they come up with an idea that they think can work, and they obviously they've got to run it by the franchisor to make sure it fits. But they're at the sharp end, and they're delivering the service every day. They made the best ideas are going to come from the franchisees as well.
Certainly, we have it written into our franchise agreement, which is the legal document each franchisee gets, that says if you spot something, we want to hear it. You need to tell us.
Yeah,
you're obliged to tell us, because they, as like you say, they are at the coalface. So whilst I was at the coalface until we franchised and then sold off the head office territories, I am not at the coalface any longer. I'm at a different coalface.
Sure.
So I want to hear about their coalface, and I certainly tell them about mine.
Yes.
So I want to hear the creativity, because it determines the future. So as franchisees, not only can you be creative and expressive within your franchise, you can influence what the business is doing as well, which I think is a lovely opportunity. Myth number 4.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, go on.
As a franchisee, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, so these are the opposite of number 3, I suppose.
Yeah, it is, isn't
it?
Yeah.
No, I think this is when it comes down to the sort of people that fit well into a franchise method or system, because there need to be people that are respect and understand the value in a proven model. And you can't walk into any other franchise and people just doing their own thing. I think that the strength of a franchise is it is proven, it is systemized, it is structured, and we follow you follow the system. You can have some creativity around the edges, but fundamentally, why would you buy a franchise if you're not going to follow the system? I mean, why would you do that? If you like the franchise, you like the business, you like what you're doing, it makes it so much easier. Just to, we had a phrase in the franchise I was involved with, that any franchisee that was struggling, it was just follow the system. You do what the system shows you as your default setting, and you're going to be fine. And don't keep on making up and reinventing the wheel. So don't just do what you like. You've got to follow the system. Creativity at the edges, absolutely, but that's what the system's there for. It's protection for them.
Yeah, and as a franchisor, I have to say it's incredibly frustrating when a franchisee doesn't follow the system or the advice that's given, because as franchisors, it's nothing unusual to bring in expert advice in order to help franchisees along. And when that advice is just simply ignored, and you can see the franchisees struggling, it's like, oh, what do you do? Lead a horse to water. Okay, myth number 5: a franchise will eliminate all risk.
Oh, okay, interesting one.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a business opportunity or investment where there's zero risk, and franchising is certainly not one of them. I don't think either. What I think is the interesting one to look at, I think, in terms of the risk, into doing it yourself, starting your own business, huge risk. Fear of failure, all this sort of thing. Franchising absolutely is less risk, but it's not guaranteed, because you have to put the work in. You still got to apply yourself to it. Follow the system, do the work, do the hard yards, build the business. So it's not risk free. It's lower risk, I think, demonstrably lower risk than starting yourself. But you still have to put the time into it. You have to put the effort into it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not just going to magically happen.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
If it was, it'd be $1 million to buy it, wouldn't it? Because it's guaranteed. Just it'd be a lot more to buy the thing then.
Yeah. So the biggest risk is actually yourself putting in the effort. So you need to be certain that you do want to be a business owner. Absolutely. And that you're going to have fun. There's going to be a bit of nerve around it, of course, but that's also excitement at the same time. I guess people, they come to the franchise world expecting it to be like a job. If they come from a career and they expect to go into a job where it's the 9 to 5, highly structured and systemized, that's probably not going to work, because they are, as you say, they're independent business owners in their own right. They happen to have access to a fabulous system, but they do have to do the flexibility. They're going to have to do, some long hours, some flexible hours, maybe do a couple of weekends, whatever it is, to get the thing moving, get it started. And when it's your own business, as you know, and I know, it never stops. Actually, it's a different mindset and a different approach. So it is a sort of an out of the box product, but to make it work, you've got to put the hard yards in as well. Yeah, absolutely. So those were our 5 myths that we wanted to bust for today. I think we added in another great big one at the front.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to talk about, actually, because it's a really good reminder about some of the bits and pieces that perhaps you and I take for granted and
Sure.
normalized because
Yeah.
we are so immersed in the industry. But that's why it's really great to have these questions come in from people, or try and answer the questions that might be in people's minds. So thanks for chatting with me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure, as always.
For those of you who are watching, thanks for watching, and thanks for sending in your questions and making contact. We would like to hear more of your questions, so you can send them in to me at sam@domestic-angels.com. The email will be somewhere close to this video that you're watching, because it'll be a recording by the time you see this. So please send in any other questions so that Dave and I, or I can get other experts in on board that would be more than happy to help you, because do you know what, as a community of business leaders, we love seeing more people become business owners. It's just great. We know it's fun. We know how brilliant it is. So we want more people to do it and succeed. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.